Hi, friends. My name is Host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Fans People, and this is probably my last video of the day, my last thing of the day here before I go get more cigarettes and go to bed. It's about ESFPs, but it's more specifically responsive to Amy's email here. And I was thinking about titling the video perhaps ESFP's Horribly Great FE, but I'm not sure if we're going to title that or not. Let's read this. Just as a suggestion, can you do a video where you explain your definition of what FE is? The reason I ask is because I saw your type, please, and your analysis on FE just happened to align with the thought that was baking in my mind. It seems like authenticity is coined as the FI function according to the personality type experts, since why anybody that values authenticity will type themselves as an FITE type. This already doesn't make any sense because that means that FE types will have to be inauthentic. Well, we are kind of inauthentic. I'm half joking. I mean, the difference between awareness of something and having that thing being a motive for you, you know. Anyway, it's complicated, that question. I'll get it. I don't want to get bogged down here. But anyway, I started to realize a while ago that if FE is paying attention to managing the perceptions of others, then wouldn't it be strange if an FE type mistypes themselves as an FI type because they seek that authentic self-expression where they it wouldn't be strange because they seek that authentic self-expression where they can stop paying attention to otherness. Well, I don't know how many people type themselves on that criteria, on that criterion of authenticity per se. I guess you're presenting a specific scenario here in which, um, because somebody's trying to manage the perceptions, it wouldn't be strange because they seek that authentic self-expression. I mean, I think what you're saying here is if they're FE and they don't like it, then then they can stop using it. But I think that's your sixth slot FE talking there, probably. What's interesting about this understanding of FE and FI versus FE is that if your personality finds it natural to pay attention to these perceptions of others to the point where you're seeking authenticity, isn't this FE valuing? And so basically, what she's taking exception here with is the word authenticity. So, authenticity is probably a bad word to use for FI because it's such a loaded term. In other words, nobody wants to be accused of being fake, inauthentic, etc. The fact is, another reason why it actually is a bad term is because while I joked that, yeah, well, we are inauthentic, kind of, the problem here is a couple different meanings of the word, right? I'm not inauthentic, like, I'm not bullshitting you. I'm not trying to pull anything over on you. I'm not faking how I am. I'm not projecting affects of something in order to try to sell you. Like, I'm not dressed up fancy because I'm aware, even though I'm aware of the fact that if I put some fancy psychology shit behind me and dressed up fancy, I'd probably do more successfully on YouTube. But and be taken probably a lot of people would sort of say, "Oh, well, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Look at him. Look how dressed up he is." So the thing is, I'm an FE type, but I want my FE how I want it, and I don't want it any other way. So because I'm FE and FI absolute values, my FI though is 7 slots, so it's like a baby. It just basically I want what I want, and I don't want what I don't want, and I don't really have any other concept of beyond that. And I have a habitual habit of not putting myself in the other person's shoes. Is something I've noted as well. It rarely occurs to me until after the fact how anything is going to make somebody else feel. I have to proactively think about it. So I mean, I guess that's not entirely true in that I have a bunch of. I guess I have to draw a line, distinction between talking to talking publicly versus in my relationship, and in my relationships, I do think about, and I'm very actually quite cautious not to be hurtful to not to ever say anything that's hurtful to Rachel or Delilah or my dad. If I do, it's an accident, right? But even then, I'm still not putting myself in their shoes. Actually, it's like I I just say positive things. Basically, I don't have anything negative to say to them. So how could I hurt their feelings? I what do I have negatives to say? I have no critiques of them or whatever to make. So um, I'm not sure. If I get lost when I start talking about FI, it confuses me, and I don't know what to say about it a lot of times. So what I would say about this email here though is that the authenticity thing. It is true that, like, for example, there's an authentic laugh that can be reflexive. There's been instances where I've told jokes before, and the other person, it's very obvious to me that they are caught by surprise by the hilarity of the joke and burst out laughing. There's been some instances in the past where that's occurred. Like when I make a joke I make jokes to people who work at like the counter at gas station or wherever I go to. I make those fairly frequently, so I get a lot of opportunities to get some laughs. Um, Anyhow, it's very obvious when it's a totally authentic, reflexive, uncontrollable laugh response versus some sort of pity laugh or forced laugh, right? And so, on that ground, you would say the uh, I value the other person's fi. Like I don't want anybody's fake laugh. That just it's information that I failed. That's all it is, which is fine. But it's not. I don't want it as an end in itself. I just use that information as utility to improve my joke making, maybe, right? All right, now I've got a couple other things to say about ESFPs and talk more about this, but I'm going to use this other little document here to remind myself of what those things are. That's not going to do any good, Eric, what you just pushed. You're pushing the wrong button. This is a terrible video already. I'm doing a terrible job with this video, but I don't want to start it over because I'm tired, but maybe I should start it over, but I'm not going to, though. I got 8 minutes into it. I should just have to live with it being a terrible video. No, Eric, no, it's not terrible. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate that. Yes, Eric, it is terrible. Because I just typed this British lady who's ESFP. I spent a full 2 hours with her. One thing I just wanted, my part of the takeaway of this is, yay, ESFPs, is I could tell throughout the thing that she didn't, she wanted to be probably possibly an intuitive thinker, right? It's just my gut on it, okay? But the thing is, by the time I was done typing her, it was very clear to me that she was an ESFP. And when I told her, instead of getting some sort of pushback from her, I got what was very gratifying to hear that she was definitely on team. There is one right answer, and it is not a matter of interpretation. And she was definitely opposed to the other people who typed her who'd said, but ultimately it's up to your interpretation, or you identify as. And it's like, no, you don't identify as Mia. You are Mia. So let's not play mushy times, right? She's on the same team with me as this. And I've noticed this as well with some other ESFPs. I can't cite any other examples except for this Apacwasicatico guy who left a very nice comment saying, when Eric first typed please me, I was mad about it, but now I've embraced it. I'm an ESFP, and I like being an ESFP, and I like Eric, and I agree with what he said. So that was very nice of him to say. And my point is that ESFPs can and should be good allies often enough in this typological war that we're having between whether or not, forget me, forget the fact that I'm saying I'm the one who's right. The broader issue is there a single right answer about somebody's type, or is it mushier than that? And there's that's a battle that's ongoing, with the mushiness side continually running into the same problem, which is every time they want to say anything about it, they don't want to be mushy. But anytime they get asked about it or asked to defend it, then they want it to be mushy and not needed to be defended, right? Well, ESFPs are uniquely well positioned in some sense to be on this side of truth over mushiness, because the world is so antithetical to their dominant two functions as like, they have to get accustomed early on to shifting to the other of their two conscious epistemology functions. So your deliberation function, their tool function Fi, is one of their epistemology functions, and their knowledge function, Ni, is the other epistemology function in their conscious functions, right? The thing is, the world expects people to engage epistemologically on some level objectively. It tends to favor objective, measurable impacts and outcomes, which is their ESFP's third slot. But it doesn't favor their second slot function Fi as a viable or acceptable decision making process for justifying shit in the world. Okay, and with TE in the third slot, the ESFP and ENFP too, incidentally, but that's not what I'm talking about in this video. ESFP with the TE in the third slot, it's selfish. It's so I think some people call it child, but tertiary, the third slot function is very selfish and childish for sure. So it's like you want to use your third slot function how you want to use it, and not that's it. That's all there is to it. So it would make sense then that, especially since TE is also not an epistemology function, that to the extent that the ESFP is going to go through the world and know or engage epistemologically, objectively at all, then they've got to come to regular terms early on and repeatedly throughout their life with turning more to their when to use their fourth slot function. Okay, so ESFPs are impactors first and foremost. They get impacts. Amy gets me to make a video in response to her email, even though now that I look at it again, it's confusing. There was just something like warm and cheery about it, and I was like, "Oh, it's Amy. Okay, I'll make a video response." But then I didn't actually think I was going to do it. Then I didn't think about it again. I probably wouldn't have done it, except I typed this British lady, and then I thought, you know what, I like ESFPs. I'm gonna make this video. Anyway, this British lady, she has taken a bunch of online tests and typed her ISTP, and she self-reports to me before asking any TI questions that when I ask these TI questions on the video, she's able to answer them faster than anybody that she's seen in the video. She's seen 3 or 4 people I've typed, I guess, And then when I say, okay, well, let's ask some, and she gets 0 of them correct. And I repeat each of them multiple times, right? And she's batting 0. And then she explains to me that, well, she's very tired. She hasn't slept for the last couple of weeks due to this ongoing issue. But I'm like, okay, well, fine. And she swears up and down that when I asked her on the videos, she answered them faster than anybody. So the thing about that is, Um, I suspect what's going on there is when I ask the question, she very quickly puts in her mind the possible answers, and then when I say what the right answer is, she goes, "Yep, I had that as one of my possible answers." I think that's probably what she's doing. Uh, but I'm not sure because the extent to which she needed them repeated to me over and over and over again, and still got zero of them right. um, it was striking. Like, she clearly 100% believed that when she was watching the typing videos and playing along, she was killing this shit. Until I actually tested her, and then she realized she can't get any of them at all. Oh, I'm sorry to laugh at you, British lady. I just thought that I didn't laugh at you during the session because I could tell it was an uncomfortable thing. But what it just goes to show is that's why I respect this British lady and Amy and Apex Quiddle and um, there's been a couple others I wish I could name them too, but for for prioritizing their NI to be objective and say, no, there's one singular thing. I'm this too, and I'd rather know the truth about my type than be the type I want to be. I will have to feel bad about it, but I'll get over it. And I like the way that you do this, Eric, because at least you are thorough. It's like and I appreciate that as well. Now that not doesn't include A Pasco Tittle here because I never typed him. I just typed please him. But I was thorough with Amy, and she corrected me, about her own type. I thought she was ENTJ because the NI was so buffed out, right? But I didn't get an SI Polr result, and it was kind of confusing. She came back and said, "No, Eric, what you've been saying is correct. What you said to me, which violates what I was saying, was wrong," and she was right. So in other words, but Eric, here's the thing: I've been doing the Ti Polr tests, and after much consideration, I've determined that I'm not getting them right. I'm getting them wrong. In fact, I'm not getting any of them. So, according to you, I'm Ti Polr, and I said, well, let me test it a little harder. And sure enough, she was Ti Polr, and sure enough, she was an ESFP. And that's why it's important that we let the definitive things be definitive and not get too definitive about stuff that's just seems. Like, why it just seemed to me that Amy's NI was too good for an ESFP, right? It just seemed to me. So I was like, well, I guess you're an ENTJ. Second slot NI seems to me to make more sense than fourth slot NI. But in contrast, Amy said, but we've got good tools here that can get an actual NI answer instead of just seems to. In other words, a singular, decisive, determinate, yeah. And I seem to hit the jackpot here. I've come up with I've come up polar on one of the three functions that one you've got definitive shit for, Eric. So, according to you, I'm ESFP. And then, of course, once I type her again, and I go, yeah, you are ESFP, then it no longer am I in the sense of, that lady's confusing to me. That lady's bugging me because she doesn't make any sense, right? Then I'm in a state of, the world is back to how it should be, and things make sense again. People are one specific type, and once you got the right one, it all makes sense, So, anywho, that's my little video on ESFPs. I want to say thank you to ESFPs for having such horribly great FE. ESFPs are remarkably good at getting me to do shit. I want to point out what Amy says at the end of her email here. You don't have to make this video regarding FE. The fuck I don't. Don't you tell me what I don't have to do. I think it would be a good clarification for others if I'm correct in my understanding of FE in the first place. I don't know if I really answered your question or not at all. I have trouble talking about FI, which when you're asking me to clarify between FE and FI specifically, well, FE is a interface function, whereas FI is a deliberation function. FE is not a way of making decisions. It's not more considering, right? It's instead knowing and reacting more. So it's hard to talk about which is more authentic. They're each authentically what they are. I'm authentically FE rather than inauthentically FE. I'm trying to be pleasant and nice, but I'm not trying to put on any airs of pretending to be, you know, I'm not doing either this stuff. I am so glad to see you guys. You viewers, I love you. Don't forget to thumbs up. I'm not doing stupid shit like that. And I'm also not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm not saying like, yes, I'm a professor of college, and I'm not trying to win you over with bullshit that's unrelated to what I'm saying. So, in that regard, I'm a very authentic FE user. Also because I'm not very insecure, so I don't really put on a lot of airs. That has to do with age and also me being sober. I'm super sober, okay? So, no, but the reality is I didn't start growing into not being insecure until I quit drinking at 42. And then that process of getting less and basically being, you know, ontological assault free, having my life be such that the world is non-assaultive to my nature, which for a lot of intuitives, I think the world is quite assaultive to our natures. It wants too much concretization of people for intuitive tastes. Anyhow, look at me getting sidetracked again. What an edom this guy is, huh? Hey, don't stereotype me. You can't put me in a box. I identify as T-I-T-I-T-I-T-I. Good night, sweethearts, and I love you all from the bottom of my spleen. I'm using that organ tonight to love.